Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Hudgens. I have read all of your goals and objective draft submissions in Blackboard and have provided feedback. I also went through and read your welcome messages to one another. It's so exciting to hear your excitement knowing that you only have 3 more courses left until you are ready to graduate. It's such an exciting time to know that you're that close. So I'm super excited with you. You all are also very pretty people. Thank you so much for posting a picture if you were able to or willing to share that. It really helps your peers kind of get to know who they're talking to. It also gives me an idea of who I'm talking to, which helps me feel connected to you. So I'm grateful for that. That's not something you're comfortable with. It's truly not a problem, but it was fun to see all of the very happy faces and the really neat places that you all obviously live. There were some great background pictures, a little envious. So I appreciate you doing that. As I went through to read your goals and objectives, there were 2 things that I saw many of you struggling with. Your goals should be focused on your role development as a nurse educator, and your goals should align with one of the 8 NLN core competencies. Your objectives are the blueprint that allows you to be successful in that goal assignment. One of the things I've noticed is your goals tend to be more objective oriented, which meant that it was just far too narrow and more about accomplishing something than it was about your professional development. And a lot of your objectives were task oriented. And when I say they were task oriented, it means that it became part of a checklist. I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and I'll do them once and I'll check them all off, and then voila, I'll be done. That's not the purpose of an objective. They really do need to be broader and allow you to do them multiple times to practice proficiency in developing a skill. I realize that it's frustrating when we tell you that we want your objectives to be specific and measurable and time oriented, and you're looking at this thinking, okay, how do I do that and not make it so narrow? How you avoid making it too narrow is by not making it something that you accomplish once. So, for example, if you wanted to really focus on facilitating the learning of your students, you just wanted to be really good in the classroom, you could state that you would be, as a graduate nurse would demonstrate advanced skills in the facilitating of learning of a group of undergraduate students. You could further that and say undergraduate students in the clinical environment. Maybe you're doing clinical. Or you could facilitate the learning in a simulation setting. It's plausible that if you are doing, if you're working with a preceptor that does lecture as well as clinical, then you could do a goal for facilitating the learning in a clinical setting as well as a simulation setting. If you are in a hospital setting, you would be facilitating the learning of a certain patient population or a certain nursing population, depending on what your work assignment is. That's about you. That's about you becoming really good at facilitating learning. And if you look at your core competencies, if you have this book, which I would highly recommend if you don't have, it's listed as one of your required readings, but we also gave you the handout from the NLN. So if you go in and you look at your core competencies, this sheet, which you probably can't see really, there we go, see a little bit better. Some of the steps in doing that are to implement a variety of teaching strategies appropriate for learning needs, desired learning outcomes, and content and context, or ground teaching strategies in educational theory, or recognize cultural, gender, experiential influences on teaching learning. All of those things can be used as the structure for objectives. Now, I don't want you to copy each of those down and put them in your objective section of your goals and objectives. But I do want you to read through these and understand that these subsets of the competencies are what should guide your objectives. If you're going to facilitate the learning of a didactic classroom setting in the undergraduate student population, okay, think about, I'm going to be sitting in class and I'm going to be teaching a group of students that are going to be sitting in chairs in front of me. How am I going to do that and be fabulous at it? Well, you're not going to do it once and check it off a list. That would be a task. What you would do would be that you would use a variety of teaching strategies to access all three learning domains to support your students' learning. Now you can visualize, okay, I'm going to use a variety of teaching strategies. Well, that's an objective. If I wanted to drill down even further, I could put little dots and say, okay, how will I do this? And that becomes the task. I will use Poll Everywhere software. I'll use iClicker software. I will use a Socratic teaching method. Those are really specific things that I can do once and check them off the box. Folks, I don't want you to do a bunch of little tasks. I want you to lift your eyes and focus on the objectives and how they align with the NLN core competencies, which should be what's guiding your goal. And your goal is all about you, okay? So if you're focused all about you and your goal, and then your objective gives you those broader blueprints to accomplish that, in the end, your students, whether they're patients or hospital-based nurses or novice student nurses, are all going to have an improved educational outcome. And that is what it is all about. That's the magic in the moment. I know you are anxious to get out and to get into the clinical setting, that you are on a clock and you got to get going. I get that. I am, if you got lots of feedback and you want to just talk, I'm happy to have a phone conversation with you and we can talk through one or two of your goals and I can give you more clear, detailed feedback. And then we can move from there. If you have, I've given each of you feedback on kind of my recommendations on what you should do. Know that I am here. If you submit your final draft, which is actually due in week 3, and you want to do that earlier, I will make an attempt to keep an eye out for that area in gradebook and grade things as they come in. But folks, that is only as my time permits. I'm teaching multiple courses, so I cannot commit to turning things around in 24 hours. What I can say is, as my time permits, if you have made an effort to get things done early, I'll make an effort to get in there and grade those early for you as well, as much as flexible as I can be with respect to my other commitments to other students. Because it is due in week 3, my professional obligation is to make sure you have feedback due to you by week 3. So again, my goal is to give you feedback sooner, but that's going to depend on when things are submitted for final review. So if something happens and you are still working through your goals and objectives and your first practicum log comes due and you have had very little time in the practicum setting, we'll talk about that one-to-one. Every once in a while, weird things happen and students get tangled up, and we can fix that. Make plans to at least check in with your preceptor that 4th week so you have something to write about, even if what you're writing about is a one-on-one meeting and a plan for setting up your work for the remainder of the 8 weeks. So I think I have covered enough about this week. For next week, your teaching philosophy. The only thing I want to do is tell you 2 things. First, remember APA is important. Level headings are expected. It is important that you use appropriate references and that you use the appropriate structure for a professionally written paper. That being said, your teaching philosophy is very much about your own perspective and you need to support it. A good philosophy comes at the early part of the paper and it is 2 to 3 sentences. Please do not spend 5 pages telling me all the things you think about education. Drill it down. Tell me succinctly, if you got trapped in an elevator, God forbid, and we were stuck together and I said, what do you think about teaching? I want you to be able to tell me in 2 to 3 concise sentences, this is what I believe education means. This is what my philosophy of teaching is. So be concise, be meaningful, and be clear. Do it early on in the paper and then spend the rest of the paper saying, and this is why I think this. Know that I'm here, folks. I know distance learning you can feel disjointed and disconnected from the real world. My hope is that that you know that I'm present, if nothing else, if virtually, and that you feel comfortable reaching out to me and asking questions so that you can be successful. I am praying for you. I hope you have a great week. I live in Roanoke, Virginia, which is about an hour and a half away from Liberty. So things are really yucky here. It is raining and raining and raining, and my dogs are officially over the rain. But God bless, there is no snow. I figure if it was snowing, we'd be up to the shingles in snow by now. So I will be grateful for the rain and not complain. I hope wherever you are safe and that you are enjoying a quiet start to your week. And I will look forward to getting feedback from you or hearing from you as the need arises. You guys have a great week. Take care.